On top of that, we have parasites, mold,
Yeah, we don't do
funguses,
shit for
bacteria,
parasites.
yeast. That's scary, right? Okay, so let's talk
Yeah,
about that for a minute.
you're wild.
Kids,
You're a fucking psycho if you go and get a parasite cleanse.
It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker.
Yo, man. Hello, Miss Rusty. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Public Access Podcast, the podcast here on the Rusty Diamond Podcast Network. I'm your host, Rusty Diamond. It is the 8th of November. So, what is up? Episode 606. And I'm going to think of a name for this. And you'll get it here in a minute once after I do my cool little dance move. And it's time for me to bring on my special guest right here and right now. And my special guest right here and right now is Brittney. Okay, so that was a great introduction that I just did, as you can tell. So, you know what? I have the first question that I wanted to ask. So, uh, for ants, if you ever have ants and you don't have an anteater, the way that I learned how to get rid of ants is with peppermint. Ants hate peppermint, and your house smells like mint. Uh, but yeah, I got to learn that one. That was a fun one, and it's a very strong smell. Like the old one of the old things used to do to get smells to be covered up was to burn popcorn in the microwave. Um,
I've heard that before, yeah.
but yeah, that one doesn't uh sway away the whatever they're called, not the mice, the
And
ants, the ants. So it's that's what happens, I guess, in those days.
eucalyptus is good too. It's
Eucalyptus.
yeah, it's super strong too. And cinnamon, if you do that too, that one's another good one. But the eucalyptus, the peppermint will keep the mice away too.
And
They
oh
don't.
yeah, and the mice, because it's the eucalyptus for the mice, the peppermint uh for the ants. And yeah, it's kind of cool. It's kind of a cool thing. Have you ever put cinnamon in your water? Like
I put
cinnamon
it in.
sticks?
I do. I I do a lot of stuff with cinnamon. It's kind of ridiculous, but I put it in like everything because it's it's a really good. It helps with your blood sugar levels. Just kind of like when you have POTS or low blood sugar, you can put salt in your water and stay hydrated, and it'll keep your blood pressure. So it's kind of like a regulator. But
Cool.
they're really good for simmering pots. Like if you eat tangerines or oranges, you can keep the peels, dry them out, and then
Oh
take a
yeah.
cinnamon stick with some peels. Maybe you can really put whatever you want. Some cloves. You can put some apples and do a simmer pot on your stove, and it smells so good. It smells the whole house. It's so good. But pancakes, this is a weird one, but cinnamon dippy eggs, really good. You just put
What are
salt
dippy eggs?
like sunny side up eggs.
Okay. And put cinnamon on them?
Yes. Very
Like
good.
after, like when you put on the salt and pepper, or when you're cooking them?
When I'm cooking, I'll put the salt. I do a tiny bit of pepper and then put cinnamon, and then I actually flip mine, but I don't leave them on the pan for that long. So mine aren't, I guess, technically sunny side up. They'd be over easy. But there's so many different people have everywhere has different things that they call their eggs, how they like their eggs cooked. It's
Yeah.
so wild.
What do you call it when you take a hole out of a piece of bread and you put a egg in that and cook it and fry that up?
Eggs in a basket.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
That's
What
like the
was
cheating way to
or
make French toast when you don't want to put the egg and the milk and all the seasonings and then dip your bread in it and then put it on. You can just crack your egg, put your seasonings on, flip it over, and bam, you're done.
that seems like a much better way to do it.
Yeah, it's good.
It's yeah, cinnamon's pretty amazing. I do appreciate some good cinnamon here and there. And so have you seen the cinnamon challenge before? Have you
Yeah, I don't know about that though.
that
That's
you
not good.
that that that
I've
doesn't
seen
seem like
people
a
do
good.
it in person, and
Oh
no, I
wow.
don't do that. Yeah,
Okay.
it's really, and the plume of cinnamon smoke that comes out
Right.
it's so bad. It's not good. Because then you're breathing it in. Not only is it just pouring out of your mouth now you're breathing it in because you're gagging to
Yeah.
death.
And
It's
probably
so
going
bad.
up into your sinuses
Yeah, and then
and
to your
yeah.
lungs,
And you
esophagus,
yeah.
just getting lodged in there, cinnamon forever. No
Yeah.
thanks.
So there's probably better ways to get cinnamon into
Oh, and
yourself.
then I almost forgot too, on the first Sunday of every month, it's an old wives' tale, but you blow cinnamon out your front in the back door of your home for creating abundance, protection, whatever you want to do. But it's always the first Sunday of every month because it starts a new month. And it's a cinnamon ritual, really, but it's a
Cool.
old from a long time ago. Some people put it over their shoulders, some people just blow it out. It just or you can just sprinkle some out, however you want to do it. But either way, it has properties too that you can use for that kind of thing too. And it's
Yeah.
fun.
So cinnamon comes from cinnamon. Well, I mean, I don't know what's cinnamon. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's so fucked up. I don't know what cinnamon looks like, and it's
you've never
uh
seen cinnamon sticks?
I've seen cinnamon sticks. So is that what they come as? They come as the little stick things?
Well,
Or are they something else before that?
it's it's the inner bark of a tree, and they have to dry it out, and when they dry it out it curls in. So I mean, I wish I could run and go
How did
grab
I
one.
not know that?
Cinnamon sticks and they're good too for a lot of,
Yeah,
especially like simmer pots, but
yeah. Or
and they smell
applesauce.
amazing. Or applesauce, you can use them as a stir for drinks like chai or hot
Ooh,
chocolate or something.
yeah.
But
Okay.
it's bark, and then for the powder they just grind it down. But there
Interesting.
is different kinds of cinnamon. So like cinnamon's toxic to dogs, except for it's Ceylon cinnamon, Ceylon. They can have that kind of cinnamon, but they can't have the other kinds are toxic to them. I don't know why the Ceylon is different, but I learned that recently, and I was like, yes, because I see people who make dog treats and they put cinnamon in it, and it's like you're not supposed to give that. But if
Yeah.
they're using the Ceylon cinnamon, then it's fine. It's not going to be toxic to them. But
Have you ever made dog treats?
yeah, yeah, and dog food. I make them all sorts of stuff. They get a
What do you
very
do?
um. So they do have dried kibble that they eat. I get it from a vet, like all the vet made food. So they do a dried kibble, and then I get them a freeze dried food and a wet food, and then I make them chicken, beef, different like sometimes I'll use a little sweet potato or a little rice. We use eggs. They really love blueberries in anything, and a small amount of honey is good for dogs too. It really helps their stomachs. So I like to take fruit and a little bit of manuka honey and then honey from the farm down the road. I'll kind of mix both of them in there, and I'll just give them a little bit of that each day. And they won't eat berries anymore unless they're straight off the bush or they're coated in the honey mixture. It's funny. Like I'll try to give them a blueberry, and they're like they'll sniff it, no thanks, and then I'll dip it in the honey, and then they'll eat it. And it's just little spoiled princesses at this point.
Yeah.
They love
Hun-
boiled eggs, cottage cheese, Greek yogurt. It's actually the littlest one without the tail, Freya. She has to have her cottage cheese or yogurt treat like after dinner every day. She won't stop whining at the refrigerator door until you pull it out and give her some.
Living the good life right there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I
they
mean, you
do.
gotta for your animals. You gotta give your animals the good life, and
Yeah.
I think it's
Well, and
important.
I don't have children, and I'm not
Me
going
neither.
to, so I'm
Me
gonna
neither.
spoil my animals. Like if I
Yep.
were to able to have kids, I would spoil my kids, but
Yep.
I got my animals. They were born by my mama. I had their mother, and my sister had the father, and
Whoa.
we actually have 5 generations of that line, and it just sucks because I wanted to keep it going, but I couldn't keep it going, and now I can't. So this will be the end of their particular line of dogs. Like
It wasn't
they're
supposed to. It wasn't supposed
yeah,
to go on past it. That's
sure, yeah,
and
because
it
I'm
sucks.
you.
But yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. I like to adopt and help dogs that need help. Like it was an accident that I had those puppies, but I it was the best thing that ever happened to me. So like
Yeah.
that was cool, raising
Yeah.
them and teaching them. And it's crazy when you do have that kind of bond because they can communicate to you so well. Like I know what they want. I know when they're hurt or not okay. Like they tell me what they want. It's like it's just same
Yeah.
with your kid. You know all your kids' cries, and they've
Right.
trained me. They'll show me what they want. They'll take me
Yep.
to the treat box or to the fridge or to the door or to the heating pad to turn their heating pad on. Like it's fun. I love it. They're so adorable.
Yeah. It's nice to get to do that and give them that life and let them do stuff. Uh, I wish I still lived in uh I lived in a place where it was like I don't know, like an indoor apartment where it's like it was a few stories and pretty long, but all inside. So yeah, you walk in a main door and you walk down these hallways to get to the place. But you used to take the cat and go walk around through the hallways with the cat. And
Okay,
everyone
yeah.
loved the cat, but like when we moved, nobody said anything to us. They just say, "Oh, we're gonna miss shithead so much." Like, "Oh, he was such
Aw.
a good cat. He was so nice to get to see him, all the time." And it's yeah, I mean, I wish I was able to do that again, or else have a spot where they could climb trees. Like they used to just get them up in the trees and let them do that. But I don't right now, and I one day hope to have that again. But
Now people do like cat like crazy stuff where it's
oh, I
the
want
cat
to
man, I cannot
a
remember what they're
catio,
called.
a
Catio,
catio.
yeah. And you
Yeah,
go
I want to do
outside
one.
and there's tunnels, and then you could make like a big enclosure for them or just have like little small enclosures where they could just sit and sun themselves. It's so
Yeah,
neat. People are
it
so
seems.
creative.
Yeah, I think I would have a lot of fun designing that. I don't know about making it, but I know someone here that can make all that, and I just
You design it and
sit
he
there.
builds it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like yeah, I can hold off on that one and be all right and
it'd
just
be fun.
watch. Yeah, but
They give you routine. I I
y-
I was
we,
I the dog the animals, even the cat, no matter what animals, they give you a routine. So
yeah,
no
where
matter
the
kind of what you're going through in life, your animals, it's like if you can focus on taking care of them, if nothing else. And that's a lot of what they did for me because I was bedridden the first 3 years of their life.
yeah,
I could get up and take them on small little walks, but that was all I could do. And they would lay in bed with me all day. We would play, and we had fun games that we made up that it was just, they always had me laughing and smiling even if I was struggling, you know. But
Yeah.
that was special. That changed my. I always help dogs and cats and animals. I'm a big animal lover, but they like changed my way of thinking with, because I used to always kind of, they don't live that long, you know? And so it's always like you get so attached and then they pass away. And I had to kind of change my perspective with it because, yeah, they're going to do that, but why not be with a human that's going to give them all the love that they absolutely deserve? And what does it matter how long they're here for? Because you're always going to remember them. You're going to carry them with you forever. Like
Right.
they're not going anywhere. I mean, they are going
Yeah.
somewhere, but it's not like you're going to
Right.
forget them and not have the memories. And so I get on myself with like making memories, you know, or going on adventures, going on car rides, going on vacations, always trying to play and teach them stuff. And so that way it's not like they're just sitting around bored, not just waiting for humans to come home and then the humans just sit on their technology and don't pay attention to them. And that's the thing sometimes too. So they
Yeah.
get me in real world reality, like being a part of the present. So I appreciate that very much.
Yeah. Do you bring them along with you a lot of places, kind of everywhere you go, or is it
Yeah.
like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's
They're
cool.
they're a little bit much when they're in the car because they protect and guard the car, so they bark at everything and anything. But once we get out of the car and we are in, you know, wherever we're going, then they're chill. People can come up to them, and most people see three little dogs that are cute and they're just, oh, can we pet your dog? You know, they love it. And the last place that we lived at before we moved into our house, it was an apartment building, an old 1800s mansion. It was
Whoa.
separated. It was really cool. It was built in 1886 or 87. No, it was 86. Yeah, 1886. And it had 5 apartments in it. The whole and they were like 1,100 square feet apartments. The whole building itself was like an 11,000 square feet mansion. And
Whoa.
it was originally a one family home, but then, you know, as time went on, I guess the family, however they lost the house, but then they started separating it out. But it was just such a neat piece of history because there was tunnels that went to the street, so when the coal was dropped down it could be brought in and, you know, put into the furnace room. They had
Okay.
bricked up old horse stables, so when they would get home, you know, the horses could be brought in and put in their stalls and given hay and brushed down. Is neat, very
It,
haunted,
in Maryland?
very. Yeah, yeah.
What?
It's
What?
the old historic part of town, the town that I live in. There's a
Yeah.
bunch of them, like the whole way down this particular street, and it's right near the city park, which is the biggest park we have here. It's beautiful. So like every day I could just walk out of the apartment building, go to the next street over, and the start trail for the whole park was right there. So every day we just got to walk.
Whoa.
That was awesome. And watching the seasons change in the park was cool, but more so than anything, it got the dogs more acclimated with seeing people more often. Because
Yeah.
again, they didn't have much interaction the beginning of their lives. So it was new for them at first, but then once they got used to it, they were like ready to go. They loved it. They loved
Yeah.
chasing the ducks. My biggest one jumped into the pond when it was at the most scummiest part of the year because they clean it once a year. But it was like
Yeah.
right before that happened, she jumped, and I didn't really think she was going to do it, but she did it. She just right in the water, in the scum. She smelled so bad. It was so bad. So I didn't trust her ever again to like not have tight leash on the walking around the water because there's a big giant pond and there's so many ducks and geese and swans. There's a bunch of humans that have befriended the squirrels and the chipmunks in the park. So they go there enough and train them with peanuts, and they'll get them to like come up on their shoulder and their hands. It's
Well,
it's
you got
wild.
the
More than
squirrel
one.
people.
Yeah, the squirrel
Yeah.
people,
Not the squirrel
unreal.
person, but the squirrel people. There's
Cool.
more than one,
Yes.
and chipmunks
So
and
they did have a problem there for a little while where people were like taking the baby ducks and keeping them as pets. So
whoa.
they had to kind of they had to get that figured out. And so nobody does that now, but that was the thing that was happening for a little
Yeah.
while. People were stealing the baby duck, and it's but it is a nice place to just go decompress in nature for a little while. And the kids have a really awesome playground section that they're always like updating and making more what's the word I want? Just updated, changing the things that are in the park. And now you know, the stuff that they have in kids parks now for like climbing and the things made out of rope, kind of how remember those dome kind of monkey bar things
Oh
that
yeah, yeah. The jungle
goes.
is it jungle gym? Is that what it's called?
I guess that's
Like it
what
was
you
a
call it.
all the climbing things. You climb up and someone's hanging from there, and someone breaks their arm falling off of that.
Yeah. Well, now they
One
have
of
them in
those.
rope, and they're cooler and more
Ooh,
fun, and
th-
just a
those.
lot of climbing things. There's way more climbing things than there ever was before, and I'm just like, man, because I like to. We live just and smack dab ringed with mountains. So the Appalachian Trail goes up, and we have so many trailheads and places from West Virginia to Maryland, Pennsylvania. There's always a cool place to explore. So I had some friends, they've moved out west now a few years ago, but they had topography maps where they got really into spelunking or caving, and they did those geocaches.
Oh, okay.
So I
Yeah.
learned about it from them, and I started doing that with them. And
You're
at what
geocaching with it.
yeah, and we
Okay.
started probably when I was around 15, and then they moved away when I was about, I don't know, my late 20s. But there was a period of time where we would just go do that together. And so they took me to all the caves in our area, and we got to go through them all. And that was how I
Ooh,
overcame my fear of being claustrophobic, like small spaces. I got stuck one time, and that was scary. And then
whoa.
I almost fell down a sinkhole a second time. And my friend grabbed my ankle and yanked me back out of it because I didn't realize I was going down, because it got real tight. We were on our bellies, arms extended, just shimmy crawling, and the ceiling had
Whoa.
came down. So there was only like this much space. And right to the right of us was a sinkhole. And then there was a stalactite in the ceiling. So we had to kind of edge ourselves around it and then keep going through. But I went too far and I started sinking down, and there's nothing to grab onto. It's wet clay, and you're covered
Yeah.
in it because you're crawling in it. So
Right.
you're just completely covered in clay. But man, we have some amazing cave systems here, and some of them weren't mapped all the way through. So they did a lot of just figuring stuff out. They knew how to get through all the caves that they took us to. So they were really good guides, and they were really safe. Like, I know I just said I almost, but they were really safe, and nobody ever got hurt. And some places were a little sketchy than others for sure, because the drop downs were really far. And if you didn't have the strength to get up yourself, they're gonna have to help you. So they would have to haul us up or get our, push us through, because their
Yeah.
drops, some drops would be, 8, 10 feet, but when you're only 5'5", it's like,
Yeah.
so they'd get me
It's
up
a
on
big
their
one.
shoulders and like lift me up, but it's and then hiking, of course, too. I learned all the trails around, all the overlooks. I learned a lot of the back roads. So that was what we did as kids. It was just out in the wilderness, you know. I saw a lot of bears and bobcats, and it's just cool stuff. And then we didn't have internet when we were kids until
Right.
what, like eighth
Yeah.
grade, going into
And
high school.
somewhere around there. And it was like, okay, yeah, like, can,
That
what?
dial up the noise
Yeah.
you'd hear to log on to
Yeah.
the internet.
And it was weird. I mean, there was stuff when we first had it at school was sometime around there, and yeah, what we got to go into and go on the internet looking at things. It
Remember
was a
learning
weird.
how to have to type? Like we had typing
Oh
class to learn how
yeah,
to type fast on a keyboard, and we played what was that game?
the Oregon Trail,
Oregon Trail. Yep. So we had to
Oregon.
do
Yeah,
that.
fuck
That was
that.
so wild. Can
Yeah,
you
the
imagine? And like now kids they have iPads and smartwatches. It's like their
right.
whole life has become reliant on technology.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we didn't have that until we were basically teenagers,
Yeah,
which
and that's
is
kind of special. We were like the last era to not have that, that connection or access to. We were connected to the earth and outside and each other. We had to go to each other's houses to know if we were home. If they
right.
didn't answer the phone, no one had cell phones. We had to ride our bike down the street and ask them, knock on the door. It's
Yeah,
people would call the house but didn't want to leave a voicemail on the family voicemail machine because you get that
yeah.
first.
Everyone listens.
Yeah, no, you have no privacy. You got five people in the house. Everyone wants to listen to what you're talking about. So it's like, no, we didn't use the phone. We would go
Yeah,
face to face and have our conversations that
yeah.
way.
Or
Mm.
trying to talk at late at night and doing
Yeah.
call right at you know
Oh
one
my gosh.
114, and then you go and you click on to the information line or something. I forgot what the number was. It was like I want to
I
say
don't
five.
remember.
Yeah, some 555 1212 or something like that. And it would, or you got the movie times thing, you could call that. And
Yes,
and then so when the other person calls with the call waiting, if you have call waiting, if
if you had
not, it doesn't
waiting,
work. And then
which
yeah, when you
we
get the
didn't
call
have
waiting,
co
then
waiting.
click over.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
no one could get through because
Yeah.
somebody would always be online
What
in
are you
the
doing
school.
calling at 1 in the morning?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
And so we went out at 1 in the morning and we go meet people. We go face to face. We'd walk or ride our bikes. Middle of the
yeah,
night, a bunch of kids, a lot of kids. I mean, I couldn't
a lot
imagine if I saw a group of 15 kids at 2, 3 in the
in the
morning.
morning. Like, what are they
Like,
up to?
what
What
the
are they
fuck
doing?
are they doing?
Yeah,
But
that was
it
us
was,
too.
yeah, it
Late
was
night
just sort
trips
of
to
the norm.
Walmart, like
Yeah.
just silly things. I remember Walmart, 24-hour Walmart trips were hilarious. We go just to have something to do in the middle of the night. What
Right.
are we
So,
doing? We'd have to
something
have a
that's open.
destination. If we weren't
Yeah.
camping, then we were just walking around. We used to
Yeah.
walk from one end of town to the other end of town because you could. There
Me too.
wasn't any
Yeah.
crime like that. No kids got hurt. Nobody, no nonsense was going on in town and at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And we never
No.
really got in trouble. We never had to lock the doors. We never worried about getting snatched off the street. Like,
Uh-uh.
we weren't even allowed to come home until the street lights came on. Like we
Right.
would just irritate our family so much to just leave, don't come back till the lights are on. And
Yeah.
then we mess up and it would be past that and then get in trouble because we didn't come home and it was dark and you know
Like, Yeah, the sun went down real fast. I was further away than I thought, I'm just
Yeah,
trying
and
to
the
fucking
buses too. The buses didn't stop at individual kids' houses if they were real close together. We
Oh
had like
yeah.
one stop where 3 blocks, 4 blocks would
Yep.
have to walk down to that stop, and if you missed it, you were getting on the bus. But
Yep.
luckily, where we lived, we were on all the back farm roads, so she would come through the first time and then have to loop back around and come back down the main road. So if we missed the bus, we would have to haul ass down to that last kid's stop. She was the last person to get picked up. So if we could make it to her house, we wouldn't miss the we wouldn't miss the morning bus. I would have to do
Yep.
that almost every morning. Just run down to that girl's house. She'd be like, "Man, do you ever get up on time?" I was like, "I don't sleep." I used to have insomnia so bad as a kid, and I got into reading. I used to read
Oh,
it, but always reading, always had my nose in a book. At one point, I could get through like a book a day because it was just be all I would do if I wasn't outside. But
what were you into
all
at
sorts
that
of
time? What?
stuff, just all sorts of stuff. But I really liked mysteries and thrillers. I liked crime. Because for a long time I wanted to be a crime scene investigator because I just
Ooh,
my brain just works like that.
like
And now
like
it's after decades of reading how sick people are. I am very glad that we as children were okay and nothing bad happened to us because
yeah,
holy crap, it's
yeah,
crazy. It's crazy. But then I got into because I religion was like a big part of us growing up. Um
me too.
and So one side, but the sides of the family were different. So if there were divorces or separations, we would have to go back and forth. So one side of the family was Baptist Christian and the other side was straight Catholic, like hard Catholic. So I had to get saved, baptized, all the stuff in both the family's churches. And
Whoa.
so, and then I was going to Bible school in the summertime. So it was ingrained in there very early. But then I'm just a rebellious spirit. I
Yep.
question everything. And, you know, um, for me as a kid growing up, that wasn't a good thing. Nobody liked that. So I wasn't getting the answers that I wanted. So then I started to rebel and I started to ask questions. So I think it was 13, I started reading about Krishna and some of the other Middle Eastern religions. And then I got through like the Torah. Um, I studied Sufism for a little bit. I just kind of went through all the religions. Buddhism. I really liked Buddhism. I liked the chanting. I liked the breathing exercises, and I liked the visualizations because I had really, really bad anxiety all of childhood. Childhood was just hard for me, so I had to find techniques to help me cope with it because I wasn't taught coping mechanisms. And something that I
Nobody
noticed,
was.
no, no, none of us were, and that's fine. We're okay, we
Yep.
got through it. But something that really stuck out to me is it, it may have been called different names, but they all had very, very overlapping similarities to them. And that got me into energy. And then I started getting deeper into the energy and up from an early age, I like rocks, plants, bugs. I was real attuned to nature. I was always doing thing of other people be like, that's gross. As I'm like picking stuff up and looking at it. I was I was just so interested in everything. I wanted to learn. So I started
Yep.
getting books like about birds and trees so I would know what everything was called. I loved to bird watch. I had like when I got
Oh
my
shit.
first pair of
Okay.
super binoculars, I was stoked. I was so happy. And I would just be outside for hours just trying to identify all the different birds that were around our house. Um,
Wow.
and like owls, crows, ravens, hawks, turkey vultures. I just became obsessed with all these different and eagles. I've seen a golden I have a golden eagle feather. I saw one in the sky when we were down in
Whoa.
Virginia. And we were camping And I saw him and I was like, I'm gonna get a feather from him. You watch. And I did. I got a feather from him, and I still have it to this day. It's a super special connection with nature. I'm just fascinated with it. And I was just as fascinated with how humanity can go wrong. So like at one point I became super obsessed with the Holocaust and wars. The Holocaust got me though. Like I studied everything there was to know about that. At one point I wanted to go into the military because I didn't want this to continue to keep happening to us. But then I realized me joining the military wasn't going to change any of that. So that quickly became a different tactic. But it was just shifting gears, just wanted to go into psychology because, having a family that's very difficult, you want to understand why they work the way that they work. But talk therapy wasn't getting where I wanted to be. So I kept searching. I never stopped searching. That's like how I got to where I am. I still don't
Yeah.
stop looking. I'm always ready to replace something I believe in with something else if it's,
I
like
yeah,
it's
I think that's
time.
important. And that
Transformation.
yeah. And
Not getting married to a belief because that can really hurt you in a big way. It's
right. And science, anything that's a fact is bullshit because it's still just an idea. I wouldn't say it's totally a fact because how many things have been facts in science and have been disproven.
and it's
So
maybe not that it's bullshit, it's just it's only this much of the picture,
mhm,
right? So it's like
right.
once our perspective opens and we get a bigger, broader way of looking at something and way of understanding it, it's like we can perceive it in a whole new way. So it's
Yeah.
like perspective is important. And if we have a lot of issues with our brain and our perceptual information coming in and like out, and we're gonna have a hard time perceiving reality for what it actually is and like not creating stories. That's a big
Right.
part of trauma. And when you're dealing with things like narcissism, it is people who lack empathy, and growing up around people who have empathy but lack it in the ways that are necessary for nurturing a child's growth can really stunt a child, like really deeply. And so that was kind of what I was on the path. I was trying to find these answers because it's when you're that young and you already don't feel like you belong. I was already an outcasted kid. I didn't even have a real true friend until high school because I was such an introvert. It was so hard for me to talk to somebody. So I would like hang out with the neighborhood kids, but I didn't really have like a
Yeah.
best friend
Yeah.
until high school.
Would you hang out with them now? I've talked about this too. Like I lived in a neighborhood with a shit ton of kids my age, but there's
Mhm.
maybe one or two that I would talk to now that or like if I was whatever age, 5, 10, somewhere in there, 15, like if I would have like been like, okay, I don't have to hang out with this person. Like I want to be friends with this person. Like, yeah, there's probably two, but there was probably like 20 kids my age that I hung out with
Yeah.
uh in one way
And
or
we would all play
another. And
games,
yeah,
basketball, flag football,
yeah,
skate, ride bikes together, explore, play at the park. We would just, because we to play in teams, we needed more kids. So, but
right.
I mean,
Yeah,
they can be mean. Kids can be terribly mean,
yeah, yep.
and it that I also had a sister, she was born terminally ill. So dealing with the mental and emotional stuff with that, and trying to learn about what she had cystic fibrosis. And so it affects the lungs and the body's ability to digest food. It's basically like your lungs fill up with mucus
Oh,
and your body can't get rid of it. So you get really sick all the time. You can't breathe. It's like trying to breathe through a straw. They slowly suffocate. It's terrible. It's a terrible disease. And there's no cure for it. You can get a lung transplant and prolong life for a longer period of time, but she did live to be 27. And I think a lot of a lot of the work that I learned how to do really helped her above further beyond what the allopathic doctors and medicines, and because she was going through like test trials to find to do that stuff. But the one test trial she did that was probably the best one ever was the salt saline solution they were giving her, because that was actually helping her breathe. So if she would move down to a more dry climate, closer to the ocean where there's a lot of salt in the air, that kind of air is good for her. But as far as like you know, dust, we always had to be clean. Like the house had to be clean. We could not allow like animal dander and pet and stuff. So it was very early on. We had to be very clean and make sure we're helping with her. And so I'm the oldest out of the three, so I had to look out for the other two. Like I pretty much was sister mom, you know. I had
yeah.
to make sure they were good, they were okay. They had to. That was my responsibility. Oh, one of the puppies just got it. Oh, hold on one sec. Let me get her out.
Okay, you're good.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So,
Woo. There we go.
yeah, no.
I didn't realize she's a smart little booger.
Yeah,
If
they
that
all
door
are.
isn't shut all the way, she will get it open.
Yep. What are
She's
you
like, "What are you
doing in
doing
there?
here?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I worked a long time today, so we didn't get to take our walk yet. So they're probably like, "What are you
Oh,
doing, mom?"
yeah. I
But
I've
it's
started every morning going out for a walk and bought some rain
nice.
clothes and stuff. So I'm trying to do it. I go out and uh now it's before we like have our coffee or tea. Like we'll start it right
That's such a
before
good
walk
practice.
outside. Yeah, and go take a little walk and burn one and hop back in and
Hey,
have
that's good.
coffee and whatever. But it's getting out and then yeah, now I don't know, I've been on a little bit of a kick for doing better things and then yeah, going out and there's a Amish farm by me. There's a lot of them, but there's the Amish farm right by me and
Oh,
they
so
got
you're by a lot of Amish farms too. Yeah, we
yeah,
have
yeah,
tons of them here. And it's
okay.
awesome
It's
because we
yeah,
can go in and get like all of our like food, not food,
good food.
veggies, cheese, and then they make all sorts of stuff, So, and their
Yeah,
food tastes much better than the
yeah.
produce at the grocery store. The eggs, the produce, so much better. I
Yeah, there's a
don't
place
know.
over here. It's the biggest buffet in the country. It's about maybe a half hour from here, but I've been there a few times, but it's this big, like all Amish stuff. So it like the food there is great. Um, I don't
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
understand it. I mean, there's still like some stuff like, you know, they have like Coke and stuff that you can get, but it's this huge buffet. And I mean, yeah, but near us there's, at there's this little stand and like I don't know, like a shed, maybe the size of a shed, and they have yeah, a bunch of cheeses and some vegetables and
yeah.
little loaves of bread and some meats
So
and
you have the same thing
yeah,
because we
I
have
love
the
it.
Pennsylvania Dutch Market, and they
Yeah.
have the place that is down here is set up. I think it's just different families who do different things. So you can
Cool.
go through, so they'll have like the meat, the deli, the soup, sandwich, sub,
Oh,
whatever. There's a fresh
yeah.
donut fit one. The family that makes
Uh,
dude, their donuts are
uh,
phenomenal. I just can only eat
pretzels.
one a month. Pretzels, yep, they do the
The
pretzels.
the soft
Bread,
pretzels.
cake. the soft pretzels, they'll do like pretzel rolls that are stuffed with
Yeah.
different things that are the bomb. There's a barbecue one back there. I know I'm missing one. There's fried chicken,
Oh
and then
yeah.
another family that's like they have all the cheeses, but they also make cottage cheese and sour cream and yogurt. And I tell you what, I never have ever liked cottage cheese ever, but
Yeah.
the cottage cheese that they make is the absolute bomb. And
Okay.
my dogs love it too, so I can't eat it
Yeah.
ever without giving them some. It's like
Okay. I'll
it's
I'll have to
so good. I can't really do a lot of their breads because I can't have wheat flour. And I also have to watch ingredients because some of their like treats and snacks, they'll use high inflammatory oils or
Oh
wheat
yeah.
flours. So I have to be
It
very picky about what I get from them. But the
yeah.
donut guy, it's like Boston cream donuts have been my donuts since I can remember liking donuts. So I get like one of those a month. And
Yeah.
it's probably like 1,000 calories, but I don't care because it's delicious.
It's
And you
it's
gotta
worth it.
treat yourself, you
Yep.
know? You can't
Yeah.
just I didn't eat sugar for almost 8 years, and it was
Oh,
hell, torture, not fun.
sure.
5 of those years, I couldn't even eat fruit, like anything that had natural sugars in it. I pretty much was just on a rice and egg diet for the longest time because
Yeah.
I
Oh,
just was having such bad inflammatory reactions to all food that I had to cut it all out and then keep a food journal diary situation of anything that I put in my mouth. I had to write down and then wait
whoa.
2 hours and write down what and if any symptoms or reactions I had, or if none, then that food was a green check. We could keep that saved for later. But
It,
that it definitely took about 2 years to learn what I needed to eliminate, and then another 2 years of just eating only that stuff. And then I started to slowly incorporate like fruits and other things, honey, maple syrup. I tried a little bit of coconut sugar, but that it was too soon for that. But I eventually was able to get the coconut sugar to not give me hives or like any kind of weird stomach problems. Like my stomach does food and I have a very love-hate relationship. I love food, but I also hate it because it doesn't love me. And it doesn't
yeah.
matter how healthy I eat, my body just goes on these tangents every now and again where it's just like the things that I've been eating no longer work and I have to find what does. And then I might
Yeah.
not for a long time. And so I got down to like one meal a day. I fast and I have a 6 hour window that I eat in. And I just try to eat small little bits, or I'll just eat one big meal and then I'll go back to my fast. And I drink a lot of water, a lot of tea, like herbal kind of medicinal type teas. And I do coffee, like a cup of coffee in the afternoon.
How
And
long have you
that's pretty much,
fasted before? Sorry.
um, let me see. The longest I've ever fasted was about 5 days, but I
Okay.
was
And
still drinking water and
right.
stuff.
So how'd that work? Because then I feel like what it does is that goes and eats a bunch of fucking really all everything that's bad for you, like inside you, eats all that up and, you know, kind of gets everything back to more of a homeostasis than it's been in a long time. And then, yeah, I think it
Yeah.
was more than 3 days, but if you did 5 days, so like, what was that like? What was not
Well, I
or
had to
just
do it a
drinking
couple
water?
times. So the first time I did it, I was already in such a really bad inflammatory state that to not put anything in my body was more of a relief than to struggle and suffer being hungry. So like by the end, and I would drink hot water. Hot water is key. Like
Yeah,
you don't
you,
put cold beverages in your stomach when you're fasting.
I I think at all. Uh,
I agree. I agree, but some people
I'm
just
drinking
can't.
a cold beverage, and I'm just thinking that I'm like,
Yeah,
it's so
and it's
bad for
okay
you.
for sometimes. It does
Yeah,
because your body has to work harder to heat it up to core temperature to be able to digest it.
yeah,
So it's when you're drinking the hot water, it's already warm, and you don't have to expend any extra energy with your digestive fire to try to break that down. And so being already in an inflammatory state, that was kind of crazy. I slept a lot. Like when I would get really hungry, my body would just, as soon as I would sit down, it would lights out, turn off. And there was nothing I could
oh,
do to stop it except for to stand all day. As soon as I would sit down, I would be out. And if you would try to wake me up, it was not good for you. And I hated it. I had no control over it. I was just a bear coming out of hibernation, just roar. Why did you do
yeah,
that? Why did you wake me up? Because then I'm awake now, I'm struggling and suffering again. And so, but by the third day, it was like your fever breaks, like that hunger fever breaks,
yeah,
and you're back in a comfortable place and your stomach's not gnawing at you to put something in it. So now you're in this comfortable space. So now when I was healthier and I did it, I did notice the same thing with the sleep, but it wasn't as crazy as it was. Like it was just,
yeah,
it had leveled out a little bit, but it was still like that same fever break feeling. I was because I would have a lot of heat in my body all the time. I felt like a frog boiling in a pot, and there was nothing I could do to relieve it. And if I had the air really cold, like the temperature really cold, that made it worse. And if it was too hot, that made it worse. But so there really was no happy medium. I would sweat through my shirts all the way almost to the bottom. I'd have to change my shirts 3, 4 times a day. Just my body's just trying to sweat toxins out and just sweat it out. So that's why I was doing the fasting too, to try to help it. I'm not putting
okay,
anything in it that's making it more inflamed. We're just going to get what's already in there and flush it out. And then I started
yeah,
doing a lot of lymphatic work, like all the time, doing just lymphing, pushing my lymph, draining the lymph bands, the organ ducts in my torso and down my legs, and just pushing it through until finally it just broke, and that kind of calmed down, and I would sweat normal, where you kind of sweat through your shirt by the end of the day. You're not
yeah,
completely drenched all the
right,
way down your side.
yeah,
And so and then the now when I do those I do still do them every once in a while, but it you go through, like, you'll get headachy, you'll be irritable and grumpy, so it's kind of best to just stay away from people. Don't have any important tasks that you need to do where you need to have like full on attention and you need to be locked in and focused. Don't do it then. That is a terrible time to do it. Like, do it in the winter time when it's like rest time and we're not doing as much and we're not as active as we are in the spring and the summer. Like, fall and winter is a really good time. But it's same. It's like I found some people are better fasting, like a 12 and 12. That seems to be pretty good
okay,
for the vast majority of people. The 18-6 is a little extreme, but the 18-6 forces you to eat within a certain window, because technically if you don't fast at all, we technically shouldn't eat after 7 p.m. because
I'm,
that gives our elimination organs time to digest and get things where they need to go to eliminate. And if you're
yeah,
eating at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, you're making your body acidic because you're not sleeping good. Because now everything is focused at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning on digesting the food you just ate 2 hours ago. And some people like to load on food and then go to sleep because eating makes them sleepy, and that's
yeah,
why. But it's where our bodies were not designed for that, you know. And so you keep driving the car and not changing the oil. eventually your check engine light's going to come on. Same thing applies. And so stomach acidity is 99% of our problem, because this once the acidity levels reach a certain point, your blood becomes acidic. That's going all around your body. It's making your joints acidic, your other organs, your muscle bellies, brain, everywhere starts to get it. And then once your acidity level reaches a certain point, then you start getting illness and disease and issues. Like, for example, a good one is when your joints are acidic for a long time, arthritis sets in, breakdown of the cartilage, breakdown of the collagen. And, so when you really pay attention to your gut health, it also helps clean up your psychological health, like your mental and emotional regulation. If your gut is not regular, nothing is regulated if your gut is dysregulated. We'll just put it that way. Simple, sweet.
It's very true.
With our food. So I'm really, really hoping that our food system gets cleaned up, because it's really scary to research how much export is banned from our country to other countries when it comes to food. Like, no corn, soy, wheat, anything of that nature, other countries will take because of how we genetically modified it. All of our meat, because of the hormones and all the other things, the antibiotics, and we were putting stuff in our meat that's been banned in other countries for a very long time. They're not taking any of that,
Right.
So, and I
should tell you
just don't
something.
It should tell you a lot, but when you tell people this stuff, they don't know about it. And it's this is why having sort of like you're always wanting to know things kind of a brain is a blessing and a curse, because you start going down these rabbit holes of truth that nobody else really cares to pay attention to, because it doesn't affect their normal everyday life or their activities of daily living. Like, it doesn't affect them, so why should they care? But at the end of the day, the food that you are eating is poisoning you. The water that you are drinking, the air that you're breathing, the stuff that they're spraying into the skies that's falling down on us, the plastic that we basically wear in our clothing that's being absorbed into our skin. Now we have all these thyroid disorders, blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol. Like, obvious, this is not a coincidence that this is like this. It's not a conspiracy theory. Like, I have stage 4 endometriosis. I have had to literally cut as much plastic out of my life as I possibly can. And let me tell you how daunting. You think cutting sugar and corn syrup and stuff is bad? Try cutting plastic, because then you really learn how fucked up and bad literally everything in plastic, literally. And the guy that invented plastic, he said on his deathbed it was the worst thing he could have possibly have given humanity. And now, there was a study, I don't remember who did it, but quick search, you can find it. They did a study on men's semen to see if there was microplastics in the semen, and there was at astronomically bad levels. They used to say we have about a credit card of plastic in our stomach, like in our body, a credit card size amount of microplastic in our body every year.
You will sleep better than you have ever slept. You've never been this relaxed. Are you ready to change your life? I'm Rusty Diamond, certified hypnotist. You don't need to leave your house. You can stay in your bed. You can stay in your favorite chair.
You just need a computer or your phone.
You can get a hold of me. Stay at home. I'll make your life better.
Hypnosisisgreat.com.
On top of that, we have parasites, mold, funguses,
we don't do shit for parasites.
yeast. That's scary, right? Okay, so let's talk about that for a minute.
You're wild. You're a fucking psycho if you go and get a parasite cleanse.
Yes, and they used to do parasite cleanses in schools. It was mandatory for the children to be cleansed each year, each school year. We had to do a parasite cleanse. So
We're
why
like
are
the
we
only
doing that?
country that does it.
Right, the only one, and people are one, and we wonder why we have the unhealthiest population. We have all of this fucked up food. We don't get the parasites or the heavy metals or the
Yep.
bacteria
Or
or
the
the
plastics.
candida. The candida problem is also astronomical, including in pets. The food
Yep.
that we feed our pets is so bad. Our pets are getting cancer, diabetes, yeast problems, like it's
Yep.
I don't understand how much further we have to let this go before
Yep.
people start like asking questions, man, like why am I so unhealthy? Why is my life so messed up? Because
Yep.
I've changed as much as I could possibly proactively change, and I'm still sick. I'm still battling and trying to get myself back to 100%. And I feel like I'm climbing up a a gravel mountain, and I get a little bit of headway, and then the side slides out from under me, and then I'm right back at the beginning again. And it's
Yep.
not, and it's when you try to talk to doctors about it, or you try to talk to other, you know, I've had to learn to be my own health advocate. I've had
It's hard.
to get rid of doctors and find other doctors because they just don't listen to you, or they think they know
Yep.
better than you, who lives in your body 24/7, and they think they can tell you, and they can't.
Yep.
And to just slap a band-aid on things and symptom chase by giving you this medication and that medication. I haven't taken pharmaceutical medications that are not surgery related for like antibiotics and pain medicine and stuff afterwards for a certain period of time, but like I
Oh yeah.
don't. Not since I had to cold turkey quit psych and antidepressant meds and like anxiety medications because my insurance dropped me when I was 18, and I was on like a whole kit and caboodle of things, and I had to cold turkey off that medicine. That was the scariest
Whoa.
realization of how scary pharmaceutical medicines can really be, and how overprescribed they are for mental and emotional dysregulation, because I got more regulation out of learning techniques like moving my limb, learning how to breathe, learning relaxation techniques. Because I'm always like I was always tensed up and angry and fearful and upset. I didn't know what to do with all that. I had nowhere to put that. So that just was stewing inside of me. And that stuff makes you sick. It can give you physical symptoms. Energy is real, that we all have it, regardless if you believe it or not. We all have an electromagnetic field. We have cells. We have a cellular consciousness. We have a grid net on our skin. We have like our skin is basically a big organ that has a bunch of reflex zones on it that can affect things inside of our body and inside of our brains, and it's magic. It's amazing, and it's
Yeah.
been around for thousands of years. And science and pharmaceutical companies decided that was bullshit. That's fake news. That's not real. Plants aren't real
Yeah.
medicine. Herbs aren't real medicine. And I'm like, what the hell do you think your medications come from? Yes, you
Yep.
may have been able to synthetically make compounds and different chemicals and different things, but at the end of the day, aspirin comes from the white willow bark. It's white willow bark is where aspirin comes from. I can't take aspirin from the store because I'm allergic to it, but I can take white willow bark. How weird is that? I can't take
Yeah.
ibuprofen or Tylenol anymore. I developed like an allergy to them. So I can only take white willow bark, or I have a capsace. I can't say that right now, but it's basically a cayenne salve, and the
Oh
capsaicin in it, it's like you can put that on, and it's pain, inflammation relief. Arnica is also a really good
yeah.
pain reliever. So
Cayenne's awesome.
cayenne is amazing. Just don't touch
It's
your eyes. Wash your hands after you use it
yeah.
because you will burn
Yeah.
your eyeball. But
Right.
so I learned about herbs first, and then I got into essential oils, and I started learning how to make everything. So I try to make as much as I possibly can. I do not buy shampoo or conditioner or soap any of that liquid shit from the store, I don't buy that. I make soap, bar soap, or I used to help make soap at the farm, but they have moved quite far away. So it's like I can't go help her make soap as much as I would like to. So but
Yeah.
I'll still go down and grab a bunch of it just because it's the best, right? But as salves, if I get an infection or sick, I love caladial silver. Mullein is really great for mucus type
Yeah.
colds and infections. You can drop it in your ears. There's tons of different things that you can do rather than go to your pharmacy and take this concoction, which when you look at cold medicines and stuff, like a lot of those liquid cough syrups are blends of things that shouldn't be blended together that damage the liver. And you got a person crushing a whole bottle in a week or two of them being sick. What does that do to their liver and kidneys and pancreas and stomach? You know?
Yeah.
And over time, you got some people who have really bad allergies and they're just pounding Mucinex every day. That's not good for the liver either. And
Yeah, go
so we
get some
don't
honey.
do
Get
honey,
some
right.
local honey.
Castor oil packs are amazing. We used to do them all the time, especially for like hot, like liver and spleen, pancreas packs, just to help the body eliminate over the kidneys. Like the body's elimination system, we have to remember because we have all these toxins inside of our tissue, it's burdened, it's overburdened. So at any point in time, if you come into contact with something that sends the system into overload, you get sick. Your immune system can't fight it. So now you have to spend however long working through this pathogen or this too much heavy metals, or you come into contact with black mold and now you have black
Oh,
mold
yeah.
poisoning. There's funguses, bacterias, candidas, so many things. Botulism, that's been a cool, anyways, all these different things, whatever that we come into contact with. It sits in our lymphatic system, it sits in our tissues. We have our fascia, which encases everything. It's like the marbling of the state, but everywhere of us is encased in it. And when it starts to get bunched up or squeezed, tension makes tissue go tight, and then it gets stuck that way if it's long enough, and you get these really concrete feeling muscles and tendons. Your shoulders get stuck up here. You see people who get forward heads, or they get like that kyphotic curve in their neck.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's their fascia having locked down, and now they're stuck in that alignment. And it takes someone getting in there and manually releasing that. And sometimes it's trauma from shock, or just trauma of, because there's so many different kinds of trauma, so many different kinds of boundary violations that happen to us, whether they're verbal, mental, emotional, physical, psychospiritual, however it happens, and that can weigh us down and overburden us. It's like that cross that we bear. You see elder people who are hunched over, they probably had a really hard life, and that's just them carrying it, you know. It's,
Literally.
it, it's literally, and the elderly people that you see have that big deep line in front of their ears. They
Yeah.
had a loss of power in their life, like a big loss, like that. This is the zone of power,
What would an
and
example
that's
be?
so
Like, what's the loss of
someone that,
power?
say you were married to a narcissist for 60 years, they just beat you down and you weren't your own person. You had to live for this person. You didn't get to have your own passions and creativity, and, just beat down, gaslit, belittled. And so you felt small and insignificant. You had no power. Could make no, difference anywhere, not even in your own life. And then people who have really deep folds here, they're fighter folds, and that's somebody who's also had, but in a different way. They've had to fight to get through their life. It's that saying, if I can't find a way, I'll make one, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's just a lot of tough experiences. And when we look at people's faces, it's the physiognomy of the face. It can show signs of the state of the organs too. Like, for example, around the eyes, at the top of the eye is the bladder zone and the bottom is the kidney zone. So you sometimes see people who look like they got smacked in the eye with a doorknob, and it's really dark. It's just a big dark circle around their eye. That's a good
Yeah.
indicator of something's going on with their kidney and their bladder, in the channel. Maybe the chi is weak in the channel, and what you won't really know until you get in there and you start working on it and you start opening things up and getting things to clear, and then maybe the organs now have a chance because they're not as overburdened to like reset themselves and get back to homeostasis, as we were saying earlier, because
Yeah.
that's the goal. It doesn't matter how we get back to homeostasis as long as we get back there. So it's
Yeah.
like there is no wrong way. That's why I like, what we're doing so much,
Yeah.
because it's all different. Everyone's going to resonate to what they resonate to, and they won't
Yeah.
resonate to what they're not going to. And
Yep.
that's okay. As long as
Totally
you get
okay.
there.
As long
Yeah.
as you're going to get to the homeostasis, like, fuck yeah, like, go for it.
Let's
Like,
go.
whatever it is that's gonna get you there, I'm happiest getting you there. If it's something, I mean, yeah, something that does involve us, great. If it doesn't, great.
Great.
Good,
Yeah.
good. Happy you're doing
'Cause
that.
I I want to share as much information as I possibly can because I've had to learn so much. I've literally just collected information for the last, I don't know. I mean, truly, truly been collecting information since I was 13, and I'm
O-
36 now,
Okay,
you
I have
know?
one for you then.
Okay.
Okay, so uh the location of the kidneys.
Mhm.
Uh, I when I was a kid, I remember it being like uh, right above your pelvis. Like they were just a tiny bit above, but now they're up behind the rib cage. I don't know. I feel like that was, I don't know if, and then the heart. Uh, I remember it being over here, but now it's in the middle. Those were two that I don't know. Cause yeah, like if someone questions you or I about us doing a deep dive on something, I feel like I'm kind of the same way with you. Like, what do you, like? We looked at everything about this, like
Yeah.
everything we know a little bit about this. Like, there's some stuff you
I got
don't, but
skin in the game, man. I
yeah,
got
yeah.
skin
I
in the
This was
knowledge,
something,
dude.
yeah, something
Yeah.
I'm interested in. So like, yeah, I looked at some of this stuff. I kind of know what I'm talking about. Maybe I don't
Mhm.
have the same idea or opinion, but like I've done a lot of research, and so
Let me tell you something cool about people. No
yeah.
two bodies are the same. So anatomy is the general area is the general area, but skeletons, organs, the way things form, I see so much different types of bodies in the way. I used to have a guy that had a concave chest. So
Oh,
the space
used
between
to.
so like when we look sideways, we're like pretty wide, right?
Yeah.
So that,
Just like,
we're like pretty decently wide when we
okay.
turn to the side. But
Yeah.
his chest, his spine, and where his like the center of his breastplate like
Yeah.
met was only about that wide. So his
Whoa.
heart and the tops of his lungs were like squeezed off to the sides. And it had
Whoa.
completely changed the way that his organs sat in his rib cage. And that's interesting. And so
Yeah.
because his rib cage was so different, even his kidneys sat a little was like everything sat lower on him than where everyone else is sat. And then same with like meridian channels. You know, we have a general idea of point location on how to find things, but sometimes it might be 1, 2, 3 finger widths off to the side of where it would normally be. So that's where it's like general knowledge of anatomy is very important, but you also have to remember that bodies are different. So it might be a little bit different from one person to the next. So you can't really get stuck into saying like, this is right here, you know, because
Right.
it's not always true. Somebody may have a deformity in their skeleton or their organ formation when they were in utero. And so it's a little bit different. Their brains might be different too. Like the way people's jaw meets the temporal bone, that's different in a lot of people, like a lot, because some people get like locked jaw or they clench their jaws all the time, so they have super muscles in their face and in their jaw. So it's like it's really hard to get that jaw space, or I'm sorry, joint space to open up on some people just because it's so locked and loaded and just clenched. It's like, holy cannoli, like, let's
Do you
get
have to
that
go to
loosened
the
up, you
do
know?
you have to go the
And
other spot? Like whatever the opposite of it is?
I'm sorry, what
Whatever
did you say?
whatever connecting point. What was the connection point to from this spot? Is there another point on your body that it connects to that you can do that to release, or do you have to release it right on that?
Oh, I see what you mean. Hold on, my
Cool. Ain't no
let
thing.
me see. Yeah, I don't know why I did that.
It's okay. Well, let's call it here. And if I lose you, I lose you, which I looks like, unless you're just very still, I may have lost you. But uh, I'll put in the links and how you can get a hold of Brittney. It looks like she might be coming back, and I'll wrap it up. But you can get a hold of her. She's with me on pop-up healing. So if you guys are into pop-up healing, which maybe you are, maybe you aren't, that's another way. And there
Okay,
she
that
is.
was really
Oh,
weird. Sorry.
yeah, that's okay. So we should probably wrap it up here. I gotta
Oh,
get
I do,
into
I do want to
some.
answer your question really quick though.
Yeah, please.
So, okay, this is really cool because the body is reflected everywhere. So think of it like a big hologram. And the folded man principle is very, very awesome because if I were to fold you in half, your nose would be the center of your sacrum. And then off to the sides would be your ears. So since you asked if there was another place you could get into, yes, you could actually go back on the sacrum and work the reflex points on the sides of the sacrum and actually be able to get some release in the joint up here. And so sometimes I have to work distally instead of trying to go right into the area because the area is so locked up and concreted up, and just there is no getting in there like that, right?
Yeah,
So you can go just like the spine. The spine is reflected on the center line on the top of the head, just the top, like if you were to just pop this part off. So, and there's the front of the spine and the back of the spine. So you know, for somebody who has a lot of spine issues, I can go up on top of the head and, you know, do some therapy up here and get this to release and settle down. And then I can actually get their spine to release in some areas that might not have, like if their vertebrae were like tilted or rotated or something and they weren't, going back into alignment with the normal method, I can go up on the top of the head or the bottoms of the feet or the hands and work some reflex zones to get it to realign, to reset, which is really cool because it's
Yeah.
the body is reflected everywhere else. So it's like that was the one game changer in all the information I learned on how to work on people, because I used to spend hours sometimes on people and I would not get that much of a shift. And I was like, why is that happening? So I dived into it. I figured it out. And now I know if this isn't getting me anywhere, I can go over here. And if I'm still not getting anywhere, I can go over here. And then I can combine like here and here and then get into it. And it's like that has changed. Now I get people and I can completely change the state they were in to a more regulated, back into homeostasis kind of state. And you can even tell when they get up off the table, the way that their face looks, how they're holding their bodies, how they speak, and like how strong their voice becomes. Um,
Whoa.
they walk more confidently in their step, and they're more here, they're more present, they're not all spaced out because their energy and their focus and attention is 100 different tasks on 100 different places. Like they're right here right now, and they can and just be for a moment and not have to worry about all the other stuff. Because I mean, it's everyone experiences this, and I feel like the most important thing we can do is just meet people where they are, and
Yep.
don't make them feel bad for where they are, because they are where they are, and it doesn't matter how anyone feels about it. It's just now it's time to clear it and clear what we
Yeah.
can clear and see what stays and keep working on that. We just keep working on it until we get as much of it clear. It's like we're just onion layers.
Right.
So
Yeah, we got a lot of layers. A lot of
yeah,
layers, a lot of peeling.
and they're all amazing, and some
Yep.
are really difficult, and it might take decades to get
y-
to the center of the onion, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
y-
And you might get to the center of it, and then 10 years later you might come back to the center again, and you've learned deeper meaning and deeper truths about yourself,
Right.
and maybe come to terms with something that before was just too close to the surface, or you were too reactive to it to be able to try to process it and work on it, because that's a lot of it too, right? Is
Right.
our brain stores everything. So if we react sort of viscerally to things, or very emotionally or mentally to things, it's hard to work on them because now you have this reaction to it.
Yeah. And
And
now it's a whole new reaction and a better reaction.
the more you take those reactions away, though, and then you might get yourself into a similar situation, and then you find that you don't react to it at all. Not at all. And then
Yep.
you can change the outcome of that situation. And that's kind of like what learning the lesson in the thing means, is like you're taking away the reaction that you have towards stuff. You can be in a neutral space. It's not going to dysregulate you anyway to experience this whatever this thing is,
Yeah.
and it
Only gonna make it better.
right, yeah. So it's cool, and I'm still learning. There's still so
Mm.
much to go.
Yeah,
But
we'll be learning till we're dead.
yeah, at this point, I'm cool with it. I want to keep
Me
learning
too.
until I don't want to stay
Yeah.
stuck in anything. I want to keep opening my perception and broadening my perspective. That's a good way to put
Yeah.
it.
There's plenty of stuff for us to deep dive. And so thanks for doing a deep dive with me, Brittany. That was fun. I'm glad we got to do
We have to
this. And we'll do another one because I don't know. I don't know if anyone wants to listen to a 4.5 hour podcast. So we'll save that for a later
Yeah,
one. Yeah.
sure. Okay.
But cool. Well, thanks for being here, and we'll talk soon. All right.
Yeah, take care. Have a
You
good rest
too.
of the day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye. All right. That's Brittney. You guys check her out. Check me out, rustydiamond.net, hypnosisisgreat.com, popuphealing.net. You can check out Brittney and myself. So, as well as Sean and Lauren. Sean was on here. Lauren's going to be on here sometime in the next month, I believe. And so you'll get to meet everyone in Pop-Up Healing. So thank you everyone for being here on the Rusty Diamond Podcast Network. And that is the show, man. Boom!
It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker. It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker.